Hello everyone, this is podcast 134 of Double Cross Anime, and this is Mario, and here with me, as always, is Whooper.
Hello.
So today we do like some of the animated movies from the early 2000s, Princess Arete from 2001, and Tamala 2010, a punk cat in Spy in 2002, I think.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna wrap up the Kemonozume last two episodes.
Yeah. We still haven't picked what's going to come after Kemonozume, but I guess we'll work on that.
Yep. So I think we can start first with Princess Arete.
Sure.
I want the postcard to get weirder and weirder. So let's start with the most normal one.
Okay. Yeah, the most normal one and the most boring one. I thought this film
I
was a
actually
was a slog.
all right. I actually enjoy it a lot, despite fully asleep at once. But yeah, I actually find the story like low key, but in a good way.
What story? What was the story of this film?
The story about this film is about a young princess who like wanted uh to get free.
Yeah. And I mean, she spends so much of the film trying to escape confinement. Um,
Yep,
it feels
in all
like
forms.
there's not a lot of movement and not a lot of action and not a lot of just happening or goings on. There's just the film stands still a lot of the time because she's always stuck in a room. So I don't know.
Yep, from
I thought that was pretty
yeah, from
tiresome.
one room to another.
I didn't fall asleep
How
watching this film, but I wanted to.
how do you feel about the world building? Because I think this is some thought we're putting in there. It's like the post magic world. So like people can't perform magic anymore.
Right, yeah, there used to be like a race of magicians or a society
Yep,
of
that's right.
magicians that no longer exists. Apparently it was 1,000 years ago that they died or something.
Yep,
And then the one
something happened.
magician who remains been living has been immortal thanks to some crystal.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
and so I'm not is he supposed to be insane because he thinks that his people are going to come back and
He
rescue him and save him.
he he's not supposed to be that insane. I think he's supposed to be just a young boy who like who still haven't really grow up yet.
Right.
Despite like living for like 1,000 years already, like 100, 200. I don't know how long he has been living.
I think there's a
But
line that says 1,000 years somewhere
yeah,
near
all
the
right.
end when he's talking with Arete or perhaps
Yep,
what's her face, Ample.
ample.
Yeah.
Yep,
And it must be Arete because she's read that book about like the big golden eagle and the city in the sky and all that stuff.
yep.
She says something or he says something about 1,000 years he's been like waiting or in search of his people, and we do see him revert to being a young boy. He hasn't grown up
Yep.
because it's because of a reason that is part of the plot.
Yeah,
Some
because I think
magical
he was
accident or
like
something.
an apprentice at the point, and that the world for some reason was wiped out,
Right.
and he just had like some trick up his sleeve, and he just can't perform any other magic, so he incompetent basically.
Yeah, because he was still an apprentice. He only learned one thing before his entire
Yep.
clan got wiped off the face of the map. But
Right.
I don't understand why he thought that his people were going to come back and reunite with him. I don't understand
Yeah.
why he wanted the princess to become his wife when not long after that he has to devise a quest for her to go on to get her away from his castle. Like, first
Yeah, I
he
don't know
takes her
why
as his
he.
bride, and then he's like, "Oh no, I need to get her out of here."
All right,
I couldn't follow the film.
all right. I think one reason why he wanted to, uh, get married her is because he wanted to be a king. So like when the time comes, he gonna be the successor of that kingdom. But he just doesn't really want to, to be near her anything or like raise her. So he just sent her away for the quest.
Well, but it's not just that he wants to keep her around until it's time to make babies. If that were the case, he would just keep her in the dungeon. He like
No,
has
no,
some
he
fear of her or something. That's why he sends
yeah,
her away
he
on
has
this
some fear of
quest.
her.
Why is he
Yep,
afraid?
have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he always been afraid of her. Like whenever Arete comes near him, he would like step back.
Yeah, well, there's a throwaway line or maybe two of them in the script somewhere saying that she's cursed. That's why only
Yeah,
like nobody's supposed to look at
right.
her. That's why she has all those
Yep.
handmaidens. But she's not
Mm,
actually cursed because the two suitors
yeah.
scale the wall of her tower, where she's
Yep. Yep.
imprisoned at the top. At the start of the film, the first time she's imprisoned before the second longer imprisonment, and they're able
Yep.
to converse with her just fine.
Yep.
So I don't understand what the
Maybe
curse is
she
or why Boa was
maybe
what.
I think maybe just people say she was cursed just because she like she dark skin rather than
Dark
like
skinned.
like what a normal princess look like.
She didn't have
I
dark
think
skin,
that's
did she?
why she have a bit of dark skin like rather than like when when he tried to like transform her
Yeah.
into like this is the real princess. She looked like more dazzling.
Yeah, well, I mean, she got taller. Her hair got a little bit less bushy and more sleek.
Right.
Her outfit changed and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but I didn't really notice any change in her complexion, and I didn't think that the film was making any sort of point about that. Um, I
Mm.
I
Yep.
think
Nope.
maybe the reason that we don't really understand the we don't understand the reason why people refer to her as cursed, and we don't understand the reason why Boa is kind of like afraid of her or like revolted by her. Maybe the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that the prejudice that people have against women in general is baseless, and so it's meant to illustrate the fact that people there's like a societal bias against women that ought to be gotten rid of because there's no grounds for it. But if that were the case, this film wouldn't be about a princess. It would be about like an ordinary woman or multiple ordinary women.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I don't understand. I don't understand what the film
And
is trying to say. I didn't understand like a lot of the dialogue. I thought was pretty preachy. Like the first suitor that comes to Arete's,
yep.
room up in the tower,
Yep.
is talking about how he's gotten these trophies, these magical items from another kingdom, and how he killed a bunch of people who came at him all at once. Blah blah blah. And she's like out of basically nowhere, she bursts out and says, "Ah, everyone who's living all over the world, they all have their own perspectives and their own lives." Um, yeah, no shit. Uh,
Yeah.
yes,
That what she
that
learned
is
from.
true.
Yep. That what she learned from like standing in the tower, looking down to the citizens.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, if you want
Well.
to
Yeah.
illustrate that point, you should probably do it with a wider cast, and then you can convince me of the importance of that idea that everyone has their own perspectives and leads different lives, and we're all like individual and unique. If you're going to center your film around one character who spends most of their time locked up, that's not an effective
Mhm.
means of communicating that idea.
Yep. Yep. Yep, I see your point. And even like we can see one of the chakras who came who have a form of a child. Like see her involvement in the story is a bit weird for me as well.
Who's this? Ample?
See the one who no, not Apple, the one who left her the rings with three wishes.
Who did leave her that ring with three wishes?
Oh, didn't remember. She follow. So when the Arete was
Oh, the
still locked
witch
up
person?
in her kingdom, the witch. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the witch was weird because the witch is also a magic user, right?
yeah,
Or she
and I
used to
think she
be, and
lost her
then
power.
yeah, she
She
lost
used
her
to be.
power.
Yep.
So I guess she was part of the same society as Boa, maybe the old man
Mm-hmm.
or
Yep.
something. I mean, I'm not opposed to films that don't spell everything out. You know, that's fine. We're about to talk
Mm-hmm.
about another one of those films in just a bit, and I thought that one, it was part of its strength, was that it didn't explain. Well, it did actually. The professor character was a bit of a windbag, but I'm not opposed to the idea of a whole bunch of stuff in your film being left to the imagination or just being implied rather than being said explicitly. But if that's the case, then like the characters have to carry or the themes of the film have to be clear at least, even if the details of the plot are not. I don't feel as
Mm-hmm.
though I understand this film's theme, and I sure as hell didn't like the characters. So the one thing I
Right.
did love about this film was the craft, the filmmaking. I thought this film
Mm-hmm.
was very nice to look at.
Yep. It is nice to look at. I actually think that the theme is more about like um they break out from their refinements. So either like the Princess Arete or even to Ample who wanted to like break out of her roles of like cooking for Boaz, and like just try her best to help the village. So I think there is a role there, but it's not really clear.
Yeah, I mean, escaping confinement, escaping oppression, and finding your own
And
way,
yeah,
because that's what Arete does at the
her
at
own
the end.
roles. Yep.
What's that?
Yeah. So like just keep redefining like their own roles, because like uh Princess Arete just like her role just was just um like finding the suitor and like get marriage and don't do anything.
Yeah, I guess, but haven't we gotten a million stories about princesses who were
Yep.
just supposed to be married
Yep.
off and then they find their own destiny or whatever word you want to use.
Yep. Yep.
I
That's
feel
right.
like you need a story to match, or you need like a personality to match. And Arete is kind of like for most of the film, she's kind of like, especially after she's transformed into that princess, um,
Mm-hmm.
into the like the unthinking, unfeeling kind of doll, shell of her former
Mm-hmm.
self. I think the film could have done something really interesting with her kind of rediscovering herself within her own like vision, because that's how she reverts to her normal self,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after she thinks about the view from her window in the tower. And there's that really neat long take of her gaze kind of sweeping up and through all the city streets, until it
Yep.
becomes level with the turrets like on the far side of the city.
Yep.
And I guess by contemplating, like ruminating and pondering over the fact that all these people have their own individual experience of life and of the world, she was able to find her own sense of self somewhere in there. But I think it could have been visualized differently, or the lead up to it could have been different, so that we could get something more, I don't know, psychological. The representation of that discovery could have been a little bit like spicier or more attention
Yep.
grabbing.
I like the look of it though. I like the way that it showed, like every corners of her, like her views. You can see like people, like living there. The actual people, like going through their life, having like uh conversation. They have like their own little story. I think the film spelled that out for us as well. Like every character is their own hero in their own story and this kind of stuff. I like the look of that, but yeah, like you said, it can become a little bit preachy. So it like it just instruct us what to think.
Well, not that so much as it just kind of like I don't know, kind of it was kind of dull for me. I would be like attending watching the film and attending to the plot or trying to and like for example, Boa is like I need to get the princess out of here. I need to send her on a quest. So between the time he first said that or had that idea and
Hmm.
between that time and the time when he like is looking through the book and he finds the perfect quest, I don't know
Yep.
how long a span that was. It was probably like 20 or
Hmm.
25 minutes. And at the end
Yep.
of those 20 or 25 minutes, I had completely forgot that he was even looking for the quest and I had forgot why he was doing it in the first place. Um,
Yep.
and what lied in the middle between him having that idea and stumbling upon the right mission was a lot of her
Yep.
like introspection. And it just kind of like brought everything to a screeching halt for me.
Hmm. Yep. All
So
right. How do you like the music? I actually found the music to be really good,
music,
memorable at least.
I don't. I
It's
mean,
not for
I
you, right?
I can call to mind the general sound of it. You know, it
Hmm.
kind of sounded a little
It's a
Ghibli-ish, a little Ghibli-ish,
yep. It relaxing. Is I like the soundtrack in this.
especially the final song, like the ending song with the female vocalist. Um,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
sounded very much like the same female vocalist who Ghibli gets to do a lot of their end credit tunes. It wasn't actually the same woman. I looked it up, but it was pretty. Her like the tone of her voice was pretty damn close.
Yep.
I felt like there was a lot of Ghibli in this film. Character designs were
Right.
somewhat similar,
Yep.
not quite on
But
the same.
more understated, I think. I
Yeah,
just feel like it's not as epic, and for you, it's not just as interesting as
yeah.
others. As like the normal like Ghibli films.
It's definitely not as epic, I guess. But that's I mean that's okay. That's not a requirement. That's not what I look for necessarily in a film.
Hmm.
I just felt like a lot of time spent in captivity, a lot of focus on the antagonist, Boa, who I don't
Yep.
think really did a lot with
Yep.
how much screen time he had. I don't think a lot was done with him.
Hmm.
There was very little context for his discontentment. We just know that his people were wiped out a long time ago. Not much exploration there. Not a lot of thrust to the story. I also had a question. I think that the
Yep.
set piece of the emerald stone that generates water infinitely, and
Yep.
like her plan to kind of transfer it into bigger and bigger like containers, so that she could eventually
Yep.
restore the valley, was really interesting. And I like
Really,
how
I thought that was unplanned from her part. But keep
really
going, keep going.
you thought that was
Yep.
unplanned. I mean, she
Like, see, I
I
just
don't
thought
think
that
so.
like if she can find a whale or something, she could just put that into the well and it just regenerate the water. It's like
I don't think
it's
that would work because
yeah, it's a roundabout way.
when she tests
Yep.
it the first time, she has to tilt the jar for the water to come out. When she puts the stone inside and
Right.
sets it
Yep.
straight up and down on the little fountain thing,
Yep.
nothing comes out. She has to tilt it over.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So
Yeah, that's right.
I
That's
think it
true.
was her plan to eventually put it in the airship thing.
Yep.
And I thought that was cool, and
And
like
she actually
how gradually the
fixed that
film.
as well.
Hmm?
And she actually fixed the airship as well.
Yeah, I mean I'm surprised that she didn't electrocute herself and die because there was water in there, and she was like literally using her own ring and keeping it in place with her hand as a conduit to keep the circuit going. That's I mean I just watched the Wonder Egg Priority special episode, and I saw the part where Frill throws the hair dryer into the bathtub and
Yep.
kills her like adoptive mother. So that reminded me of that.
All right.
I don't think that has anything to do with Princess Arete, really. Anyway, I thought that was neat.
Yep. Yep.
Cool set piece, I guess. I just would have liked a little
But
bit more of that, I guess, and a little bit less of her like
mhm.
in a room.
I really want a little bit more of the world building because there some subtext on the world building that I really want to see them explore more.
What would that be?
And I Oh yeah, well, like the reason behind like the wipeout of the magician's clan, for
Oh
example.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I would also
I
like
want
to
to
know
see
because that
that
would make the
more.
villain interesting.
Yep, yep, for sure. And I think yeah, this movie it reminds us a lot of Studio Ghibli, but if you like compare this one with Ghibli, it just pale in like in every regards.
Well, it does. It does in
So
my
perhaps just
opinion, but that's just me. It's this one is
yep, yep,
slower. It's
yep.
more. It's more interested in, I guess, the inward, the inner journey of its character, as opposed to, as you
Mm-hmm,
were saying
mm-hmm.
before, like an epic
Yep,
tale. Like an epic fantasy. Um,
yep, yep.
and I'm down with psychological stuff. I mean, Evangelion is a huge touchstone for me in terms of
Yep.
anime. And there are some entire episodes of Evangelion that are just like the exploration of someone's inner thoughts and feelings. Um,
Uh, I found them really, really.
well, it's not just the
uh,
last two either. Not just the last two. There are some other
yeah.
ones, like when Shinji is absorbed into like the spherical, um, black and white angel, and he's like in there
Right, right.
formless. It's kind of like a proto LCL sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think the concept for this film is one that I would not immediately dismiss it.
Yep.
I just wish I'd been more engaged by it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I still find that more this one more engaging than the other one.
Okay, I'm the reverse.
So all right. So can we just move on to the next one, which is Tamala 2010, a punk cat in space.
Sure, I'm ready. Or am I?
All
I don't think
right.
anyone in the history of time has been ready to discuss this film.
All right. So, your complaint about Princess Arete, I could apply that complaint to here because I don't see there is any story in Tamala 2010 at all. So it's just
It's
like
definitely difficult to spot. I
it
mean,
is really
eventually the professor
yep,
character comes out and spells out the entire like chronology
yep,
of the film and what
yep.
exactly Tamala is. And for me, that part of the film where it explains itself is the worst part. Whenever the
Right.
professor was
Huh.
talking, I was like, "Oh, just shut up, dude. Let me go back to watching Tamala like kick the doors off of cars and call her mom a fucking anaconda and stuff like that." I just wanted
All
to
right.
see her be like disruptive and crazy and watch the film do whatever it wanted.
Yeah, well, I actually found out when the processor spell a thing like that, it make it more interesting because it's like put all this into a perspective. Like before that, all Tamala does is that like she's cute and she like she does all the bad things. So I feel more like her character is intent there just to shock the audience, just say like this is a cute girl, but she like she misbehave. After that though, I can see more of like it's all kind of things that come to my mind. Like an obsession from Michelangelo. Like even of obsession from the processor himself as well to Tamala the characters,
Yeah.
and it's blur between like a dream and reality as well. So like some of the stuff that Michelangelo meets Tamala, it might not be real.
Right.
Like
It's
it's
hard
just
to know what's real
recurrent.
and what isn't.
Yeah. I think like when the processor come, that put the film into more interesting perspective. Before that though, I just don't think there is a story to begin with.
He explains the story, and
He
I
explained the
would
story,
say that
yes.
the film does have a story, but it's not interested in explaining to you what it is. So there's a whole bunch
Right.
more movement from place to place, I think, in this film than in Princess Arete. But a lot of it is chaotic and partially or entirely obscured. So you
Yep.
don't, like, for example, you don't know why Michelangelo and Tamala go to that museum, like the art gallery, where in the basement she finds that mural of all the cats, like, dismembered and disemboweled and on fire and being tortured and stuff.
Yep. Yep. All right.
You don't know why that's happening exactly, but when you look at the plaque underneath the mural or the inscription, whatever it was, you see that there's some information there about there's information there that relates to the original card at the start of the film from like 3,500 BC when a kitten dies in like the environs of Greece.
Yep.
You can make the connection of that cat being the same cat that's seen here in the mural, in implying that the cat is being reborn through time, which is something that the film eventually explains to you, but you can piece that together even before the professor gets up on his soapbox.
Yep.
And Tamala is that cat. That's what becomes more clear, I think, when the professor does his spiel, is that Tamala is both Tamala and Tatla, the 3D CG cat who sometimes appears in her dreams.
Yep.
They're like linked
Is that the
together.
one who on the escalator?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Both Tamala and Tatla
Right.
are like dual reincarnations of man, what's the cat's name? I think I wrote it down. Minerva. Minerva is
Minerva.
the like the
Right.
cat goddess who's being reincarnated continually. And the cult members who worship Minerva are the Cadian. They eventually take the form of the Cadian Co. Like
Right.
super conglomerate,
Uh-huh.
which is like seeking to dominate space. So that's all
All right.
like that's all happening in the background, and it sounds like absurd to hear it explained. At least it did for me when the professor was like talking about it, because I was when I saw those first three, like first at when the film starts, it says 3,500 BC, the environs of Greece, a cat
Uh-huh.
dies. Then there's the scene in Italy in the 15th century where like that newspaper delivery person throws the newspaper into the house.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And inside the newspaper, there's a secret message saying, "Wait a little while longer." And then on that secret message, there's the logo of the Caddy and Company eyes.
Huh.
So
All right.
immediate, like as soon as I saw that, and then it cut to the present day, like 2010. As soon as I saw that it was jumping through time like that, I rewound and started watching the film from the beginning again, and I started taking extremely detailed notes.
Wow. Good on you.
And eventually, I stopped doing that. Do you remember the scene where like they're at a concert. Michelangelo and Tamala are at a
Yep.
concert, and it's like
Yep. Yep.
a
Yep.
bunch
Yep.
of Betty Boop looking characters on stage,
Hmm.
and then it somehow shifts into Tamala being up on a big stage in like a modern theater, and she's like twerking and like doing a bunch of she's like shaking her booty on stage, and then eventually the stage catches on fire or something. Do you remember this at all?
Yep. 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 I remember that.
Yeah, that's the moment when I stopped taking serious notes because I was like, okay, this there I'm just being trolled right now. This film, interested as it is in telling a story about like corporatocracy and like the evils of like late stage capitalism. Because you have
Mm.
like Colonel Sanders with an axe in his head, like a giant Godzilla-sized Colonel Sanders, advertising KFC, stomping around in Tokyo
Yep.
near the
Yep. Yep.
start of the
Yep.
film. Like
Yep.
obviously the axe splitting his skull in two is a pretty clear message against this sort of like mass advertisement and
Yep.
just capitalism in general, I think. But then the
Yep.
film goes to some weird places that don't have a lot to do with that message. So, but I liked the stew of it, like everything put together. I thought it was
All
thought it
right.
was
All
pretty
right.
punk.
Because yep. I'm punk. All right. I I also really intrigued by the concept behind that, like like you said, the Cathy and Co companies, and the all this stuff, the coating. I really enjoy that. But there's like for the first half of that, they focus more on Tamala and Michelangelo, just hanging out, and we also have like some sequences of two lady cat talking in Sheila halls, so we don't see their face or
Right.
uh,
I think that's
um
like a drag bar. Um, I think that's
yep.
what we're meant to imply, or
And there's
what
like
we're meant to
some,
infer, rather.
yeah, and there's some more weird scenes about the dog, the German Shepherd, and
Kentauros.
the mouse. Yeah,
Yes.
and I can't really like put those things all together.
Well, I think there
So
was
like on
commentary
the
on police
surface,
brutality in there. Kentauros
the
is a
commentary on
cop.
what? Sorry.
Police brutality,
All right. Yep.
because Kentauros is a cop, but he also keeps this mouse or whatever she is.
Yep.
Penelope, I think her name was.
All
He
right.
keeps her at
Yep.
home and like takes weird perverted pictures of her and is probably sexually violent towards her.
Mhm.
Um, and he does the same thing to Tamala, who dies midway through the film. The
Yep.
title character dies, but then we see very late in the film like the tendrils of the plants in the forest or the vines or something like wrap around her and like restore her to life
Hmm.
somehow,
Yep.
because she's immortal. She's the
Yep.
reincarnation of Minerva. So that was weird. This is just a
Yeah.
very
It was
weird
really weird.
film. This is probably the strangest anime I've ever seen. I don't
All
know. Can you
right.
think of one that's stranger that you've watched?
I'm thinking like Deadlift is it's plenty strain on that one as well.
Dead Leaves, yes, also very strange. I think Dead Leaves is also much easier to follow, though.
Yep. Yep. True. True. That's the thing, because I for Tamala to 2010, I really like the concept behind it. I just don't like it at all on the surface story, because there's no story to speak of, and the animation, there is actually very little animation in there.
That's true, yeah. And a lot of the animation, like especially walking or driving animation, is just
Yep.
looped. And it
Cracking from one point to
yes,
another.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that parts of this were animated in Flash or a similar
Yep.
program, like a
Yep.
very rudimentary animation software. But I liked it. I thought that was cool. Like
Right.
the first we see of it is the scene in Italy in the 15th century where the newspaper boy is walking
Yep. Yep.
along
Yep.
the, and it just looks like he's floating, like his legs are floating in midair. There's
Uh-huh.
there's no like contact with the ground being made really. We just see him kind of dragged across the screen. When I saw that, I was like, what am I looking at? As,
Yep.
as I got used to it, the amateurish quality of it kind of grew on me a little bit. This seems like a film that was
Right.
made by not like a very very small team of
Right.
super weirdos.
Yep.
Um,
Even like the sound design, sound design was not, like really professional,
you
but
talking
it
about the
really
weird sound
fit into,
effects?
yeah, the weird sound effect. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very
Like, oh,
cartoony,
like
but I
this.
mean, it was in the style of Astro Boy.
Oh,
When we
is
see
it?
Tamala wake up in her apartment, that's like
Right.
she has the same eyes that Astro Boy does, and everything's in black and white, and there's everything's very round. Like the designs are all very round. There's not a lot of angles to any of the characters,
Hmm.
so it felt very 60s, um, and I guess that was I don't know why that choice was made really. Probably so that Tamala's actions would be even more striking, like even stranger and wilder, in contrast to the very classic looking art style.
Yeah, maybe. Um, and can you explain, or do you have any idea about the statue of the boys, like a giant statue of the boy, like in the
No,
middle of the buildings?
it's the one that says
And yeah,
"fucking Prince" on it.
right,
There's
right.
graffiti on it that says when you first see it, you see like FUC and PRIN on the one side, and then later in the film, you get to see the other side. You put it together, you realize that it says "fucking Prince." I don't know what that means. I don't know who the prince is. I don't know why the statue appears to be alive. And I don't know what the deal is
Yep,
with the bird that flies around it all the time. Do you remember when we first come
yep.
to, what is it, Planet Q? That's where
Uh-huh.
Tamala crash lands. Originally, she was trying to go to
Yep,
Orion to see her mother. Because very
yep,
late
yep,
in the
yep.
film, we see the card, like the postcard that she got was an invitation to go to Orion and
Hmm.
meet her birth mother.
Yep.
But she crashes on Planet Q. So when we first get there, there's that scene of the bird flying around the statue, and I just love, dude. I love the music in this film. I fucking loved it.
Yep.
There's like a samba song with a little
Yep.
bit of Latin
Yep.
flavor to it that's playing while the bird is flying around, and I was just like jamming in my seat while this was happening, not knowing what the significance of this statue was, but still having a good time watching it. I thought
Yeah,
there were a lot of
even
really
like
cool musical choices.
it. Yeah, even like the ED, the ending song was was really cool.
Yeah, it was. Was she was singing in Japanese, right? Was some of it in French?
She was a pack of Japanese and I think pack of English
Part English.
in the
Okay.
ED.
'Cause I
Yep.
remember there was French in here. Tatla during the scene where Tamala and Tatla are like communicating with one another near the end. Tatla, the 3D robot girl, is speaking in French.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm. I
so
don't
I don't
recall that.
understand exactly why.
Yep. I
My
remember
best
like
guess.
there's
Go ahead.
yep. I remember like there's some conversation in here, like in the films that I can recall correctly, is Chinese as well.
Was there Chinese? I feel like
Yeah,
you might be
I'm
right.
not sure if it's this one, but I will have a look back on that.
Yeah, this is a film I can
Jeez.
actually see myself revisiting, just because it's like a big puzzle. You know what I was reminded of while watching this? Serial Experiments Lane.
Yep.
Because
Right.
Tamala
Right.
is a sort of godlike character, the precise
Mhm.
nature of which is kind of unknown to us as the viewer.
Mhm.
She's kind of like a
Yep.
Lane-esque figure, like a god, or you know. There's even a moment in this film where there's like some graffiti on the wall or something that says "This old world in Minerva's dreams." And
Mhm.
Minerva
Mhm.
being
I
like the
remember
cat
that.
goddess, there's kind of an implication there that everything that we're seeing is just something that she is picturing in her own mind.
Yep.
Um,
Or even Michelangelo's, because and we see like later on he was talking with the professor, and I always have like the feeling where they are actually one people,
Right.
like like the professor is the old Michelangelo who now can die, or something. He
Yeah,
look weird.
that was hard for me to. I mean, the second time they meet in Michelangelo's apartment, the professor says, "Or who knows? Maybe I'm you, or you're me," something like that. But even
Yep,
before
yep.
that, oh, I'm remembering the Chinese thing now. He gives a present. It skips forward into 2032,
Oh,
the year
yeah, yeah,
2032,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's giving a presentation in
Right.
China, I think, about
Yep,
the
yep,
history of Tamala and of this
yep.
secret cult and of Minerva.
Mm, mm.
And during that presentation, I was like so proud of myself because I figured out even before he and Michelangelo ever spoke that that was Michelangelo because on his forehead he has the same little tuft of hair, like a curled tuft of hair right above his eyes. And as the riots are going on and like the shadows of the flames are being projected onto the screen, uh, because someone's come to disrupt his presentation, because I guess it's a threat to Caddy and Co.
Mm.
And like their intergalactic domination, whatever plans they have. He says, "I wish I could
Yep,
see Tamala one more time." So based on
yep.
that and based on that one similarity in his appearance to Michelangelo, I figured out who he was. And then
Yeah,
the film spelled
but
it out a little bit
he
later, but it was weird because they were existing
right.
in the same room at the same time, unless that was a dream. I just don't
Yep.
know.
No, no, no. But like he reincarnate, I think, in from the form of a corpse, like a floating corpse
I
on the
remember when he was
river.
floating face down in the river. Yeah, he
Yeah, so
reincarnated.
it's just so weird, and that's what I think. Like he just transfer his soul to that body,
Hmm.
so that like yeah, the body just go around looking for Michelangelo, and like info dumping us all these useful information. No
Yeah,
idea.
I mean the part that he says, like the information that he gives us that isn't really accessible anywhere else in the film, at least not that I could discover, was learning
Yep.
about on the cat planet originally there were like 200,000 cats that were stolen on the
Mm.
Red Night of Edessa in the 19th century.
Yep.
Like there a whole bunch
Uh-huh.
of cat babies were kidnapped and they were all experimented on to see which one would be the host of Minerva, like whose body she would be reincarnated into. And
All
Tamala was the
right.
only one who ended up
Just
surviving.
Tamala.
Yeah, that's why she's
Right.
immortal and she appears in all these advertisements throughout time. That's
Mm.
what really gave me Lane vibes was the fact that like she exists throughout time and space,
Yep.
and people
Mm.
have like
Mm.
photographed her and used her as an actor or a model in ads to secure like their dominance over the planet. Um, it is just there's a lot of really interesting stuff to chew on while watching this film, but it's pretty off-putting as well. Like it's not easy to follow and
Yep.
it's kind of ugly looking.
All right. Can you explain me like there is a I remember there is a woman, a naked woman with the snake
Yeah,
things.
that's her fucking anaconda mother, who she refers
All
to
right.
later in the film. That's her human mother, who she was given to after she became like the reincarnation of Minerva, because they took her away from her cat mom, who we see in her flashbacks when she's in the little
Mm-hmm.
bed with her mom, who looks like her, and a bunch of other babies. That's
Yep.
her
Yep. Yep.
actual
Yep.
biological mother. The anaconda woman is her adoptive mother, who
All
I
right.
think has probably just been put in charge of her by the state to keep her from like wreaking havoc.
All right. Cool. I can't. I don't have anything else to say. There's a lot. There's certainly a lot of ideas behind this. And I think like one of these the thing that keeps this film from engaging to me is that it still try its best to shock us. to make us feel weird and even like at some point uncomfortable. So it more it for me it's more like a shock values that might or might not be uh like go together with all the teams and all these law behind uh it's world building. What do you think?
Um, what was shocking about it?
Well, it's like the fact that Tamala is was brutally murdered. Like the fact that the German Shepherd have like a uh
A
trapping,
prisoner in his house?
like yeah, and taking a picture of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those. I wasn't. Yeah, those are shocking. I guess. I wasn't
Mm,
shocked while watching this film. I was never shocked. I
right.
was I was amused mostly. Like I found myself smiling a lot while watching it. Um,
Mm,
it just wasn't. It wasn't shocking to me. I think probably because it jumped around in time so much at the start, and then it had such a like a kid friendly art style that I could kind of
mm,
tell that they were going for a juxtaposition there, and that
yep.
the content of the film was going to be a decidedly less, um, aesthetically friendly. And also the
Mm,
mural of like all the cats, like ritualistically disemboweling themselves and stuff like that. When I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, so this is extreme. This movie is actually extremely fucked up, um, and it just doesn't present itself that way.
yep.
Uh, Man, I don't know. I thought you were gonna enjoy this. I was like, man, this. I think I thought like I have not watched. I'm not a big movie guy like you, so I don't know much about like French New Wave. But I
Right.
imagine that the people who made this film were probably inspired by that sort of school of cinema.
That's an interesting take that you just said because the French New Wave, I actually don't really enjoy that
Ah, okay.
movement at all. Like
Hmm.
I watched about the movie and it just feel too like the plot too random for me. I
Yeah,
have
kind
the
of like
same
this
feeling
one.
with this one. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
like
I
they
maybe
just
that's the
kind
reason that
of
Tatla speaks French. It's like an homage or something.
maybe like I always have a problem with the film where I feel that they just make up the plot right on the spot. uh this one I do feel like some of the moments in the movie I feel that.
I mean, they explain the story to you. They invent a character or an alternate version of an
Yeah, but
existing character, perhaps, to
yeah,
to
that
tell
that
you what the
when that
story is. And I think you can
yeah,
trace it throughout the
all right,
film.
that's when the movie get a bit interesting. But like at the beginning, where like Tamala and Michelangelo just hang out, like in different scenarios, it just completely random to me.
Yeah, it's difficult to know why they're like I said earlier. We don't know why they go to the art gallery. We don't see them make the decision to go to the art
Yep.
gallery. They just appear there. And I think, again, I'm not a movie person, but isn't that like a characteristic of French New Wave? Is that they're not really concerned with depicting how the characters move from one place to another so much as just putting
Yep.
them in place
True.
A, and then the next scene is just in another place and the characters are
Yep.
there.
Yep. True. I remember there's one movie where there's one girl and two boys who in love with her, and they kind of hang out together, and they have a fun a fun thing to do. They run across the Louvre Museum
Hmm.
to see like how they just run, so they don't watch anything. They just run from one end to another to see like how long would that take to complete the whole thing without even watching. How fast could they go? I think it was 12 minutes, and so yeah, so maybe that explains the gallery thing, a homage, like I said. But yeah,
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised
I
if
think
there
the
was
essence of
some
French.
inspiration there.
In- Interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. The only part I didn't like was when the professor was talking, because I just wanted to put it
Hmm.
together myself.
Right. But there is like a lot of image from the film that I really like. I remember like one where Michelangelo just stay inside the room and we can see the outside where we can see the giant statue just looking over. I think that shot was really cool.
Are you talking about the exterior of his apartment where you see the shadow of the statue projected
No,
on the
no,
side?
yeah. That so that he was what we see is that he was sitting in the sofa inside his room, and we
Hmm.
see from the windows behind him the face of the statue looking at him.
Okay.
I think that
I
was when he was waiting for the processor to come and talk to him, or
Yeah,
he was just sitting alone.
right. And then the power goes out.
Yep,
That's actually the power goes
yep,
out when
yep,
the professor's already in there, I think.
yep, yep.
I don't remember the exact order
I
of
think
events.
that's
It's hard to remember the order of events in
yep,
this film because it
true.
is pretty disjointed.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Interesting that you enjoy this one much better than Arete. I think that would be the other way as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was not. I thought Arete was it was structured much more traditionally. I just thought that the execution was a little dull. Whereas with this film, the the structure is all over the place. But I don't think there's
Yep.
ever a dull moment. It's always like challenging you in some way or another. And I thought the music was awesome. I only talked about that one scene, but there's also the scene where they go into that red tunnel, and it cuts to live action for a little bit. I forget what the
Right.
context was. There was like some chase scene or something, where they're in the car and the dog is chasing them, maybe the police dog,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
they go through that red tunnel, and it's like, man, I just remember jamming out to whatever song that was. It kind of sounded like "On the Run" by Pink Floyd, if you know that cut off of "Dark Side of the Moon." It's like a kind of a
Uh,
spacey synth track where it slowly like grows over time and becomes kind of like more haunting and paranoid.
yep. Hmm.
I thought I don't know. I would love to like have a conversation with the people who made this film. I
Yeah.
just
To
want to know
see
what
what
kind of
they are.
people they are and like what
Yep.
kind of drugs they take and all that.
All right. I just heard new where they said like a sequel might come,
Yeah,
or just been under the production scenes.
yeah. Tamala 2030, A Punk Cat in Dark
Oh,
is the name of it. It's been in production for
interesting.
2 years. It'll probably take forever to come
Oh,
out, honestly, because I imagine that it's a very small team working on it again, as in the original.
yep.
So who know? It might be 10 more years before we see it. I don't know, but I'll probably watch it. I'll probably watch this again too.
Yep. All right. All
Surprising
right. I
stuff.
think yeah, surprising. All right. I think we can head on to Kemonozume, another weird show.
Yeah.
Uh, with it, like climax. It reaching the climax.
Yes. Oba says so, literally.
Yep. To be continued.
Yeah. Suzuku?
Yep.
he's he's what a character.
Yep. I actually have a problem with him because he kind of like overwhelming the narrative for the last half of the show.
Yeah, I agree. That was my
Yep.
issue with
So
the show
so
the first time I watched it. Was too much Oba.
yep. Yep. So he kind of like Adam in Skate the Infinity
Yeah. Yeah,
where
that's a pretty good
he's his,
comparison.
yep, he's like a superstar, and like everyone just like follow hit with basically, and
I
he
guess. Although Adam has like a charisma that attracts people to him, whereas Oba is just like a huge manipulator, and most of
Right.
the people
Yep.
who have anything to do with him don't like him.
Yep. He did range
Yep.
like in multiple forms, and yeah, it just he kind of become too powerful. That like it kind of hard to see like how these main character try to kill him.
Well, I
So
mean, they
I
have the monkey on their side, so they can't lose. He's actually the strongest character, actually.
that is true. That is true. Yes, he actually
Shisho.
involved into this story a lot. Yes, Shisho master.
Yeah, and in fact, the very last frame of Kemonozume is the monkey. Did you
Yep,
watch through
yep.
the end credits and you saw that shot?
I just skipped through that. Yes, but I saw that.
Okay. Yeah, he's I think he's meant to his the character of the monkey is meant to parallel Toshihiko, I guess.
Uh
Sometimes it's
huh.
difficult to see how exactly, but in the end, Toshihiko and Yuka end up raising a child together. And the same happens with Saru, the monkey, because his actual, partner, and not the one that Oba manifests on top of his head, uh, like comes back to him. She like treks across all of Japan, I guess, with her triplets that she's
Yep.
had in a little sack on her back, and finds him, so they can settle down together, I guess. So I
Jeez.
I guess he parallels Toshihiko in that sense. They end in the same place. Their arcs conclude
Yep.
the same way. And the monkey
No,
is also
I
I don't know.
yeah, I wouldn't make any comparison between Toshihiko and him, especially because I think most of the time, the monkey he's supposed to be a comic relief.
Yeah,
He did actually did better than a comic relief in that sense.
yeah.
But
He's
yeah,
much more than that. He's the key to this whole story. He's the linchpin.
yep,
He's
yep,
the
yep,
secret
yep, yep.
weapon.
I agree with that.
It's very very weird. Uh, Olba's transformations, like him taking Kazuma's arms to be his legs, was strange.
Yep,
His weird form where his head gets detached from his body and like grows little legs. That was really weird. And I've
yep.
had mostly praise for this series' color scheme throughout its
Right.
run. Like I really
Yep,
loved the different shades of green in the forest when Toshiko is training with Saru, and during more
yep,
violent scenes you get more reds, and
yep,
during like scenes where characters are distrustful or paranoid of one another, you'll get like yellows or blues. There's a lot of like primary colors being put to work here
yep,
and kind of taking over specific scenes to highlight what it is that Yuasa wants to like emphasize. But
yep.
the pink in the final showdown with Oba was just like assaulting my eyes. Way too much. It was ugly.
Yep. All right.
I think that was
Yep.
probably the point.
I
Like, it's just so
yep.
bizarre and so in your face that we're just going to use the color that is most shocking and violent for your retinas. But I just
Yep.
didn't like it.
All right. So I think the showdown come mostly as we expected it. So it's Oba who wanted Toshihiko to like put on the arms of either Kazuma or Yuka. But I think the point of the show is that Toshihiko refused to do it. He refused to transform in order to like fight square and fair uh, uh, to the guy to Oba.
With Oba.
I
Yeah.
think.
He doesn't want
I'm
to
not,
do it. He like intends to protect Yuka without relying on that technique
yeah.
because he doesn't want to hurt her.
So
And because he
that
also wants to rely on his own strength. That's like inner strength being a big part
yep.
of the Kifuken or Kifuken, their
Mhm.
mantra, like in their dojo. That's a big thing.
Yep. So that's why I just feel that like because him not willing to transform, and because Oba is already like an overpowered figure who want to destroy the world. The ending where he actually beat Oba is a bit less credible for me.
I didn't have an issue with how he was defeated, just because the show had already gone to such weird and wacky places by that point that the shot putting of Oba's head by his son,
Yep.
and then the monkey, plucking out his eyeball, and it
Yep.
like I was ready to follow the show wherever it went at that point. Maybe not totally enthusiastic about it, but I was at least following along. It wasn't going to lose me
Yep. Yep. Yep.
because
Yep.
at that point Oba had already, it was already the Oba show.
Yep. And I just feel that Rie and Kazuma they add very little to the ending. I think I know that they're gonna die, but you know, yeah,
Yeah.
they did die gruesomely.
Well, I think
Uh,
Kazuma is like he eats Rie.
yeah, is that like in this episode as well?
In episode 12, he eats her. Because
Right.
she's dying, she's like bleeding, and they're in that little
Yep.
room where the water has risen up to like waist height or however deep it is, and she's like bleeding out, and she's talking very faintly
I
and
think she cried
slowly.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then she like seems to die. I don't know if she did die or not at that point, but after that,
Right.
Kazuma eats her. We see him transform, and then he eats her, and then he experiences some of her memories. Like he reads her diary in
All
a
right.
dream sequence, where she's saying what day it is and what weather it was, and then at the very end she says, I
Oh,
will
right,
help
right,
to
right.
protect the dojo."
Yep, yep. I didn't
So
connect that
it's like a
dot.
really tragic ending for both her and Kazuma, because he, by eating her and like finalizing her death, he prevented her from doing the one thing that she wanted to do, which was protect the dojo.
Yep.
Um,
All right.
yeah. So there's
And
the
then
Romeo. There's a
we
Romeo and Juliet ending there for the two of them.
yep.
Kemonozume is often described
Yep.
as Romeo and Juliet, but with flesh eaters.
Happy
So
ending.
they fulfill the death of Romeo and Juliet, whereas Toshihiko and Yuka are spared, and there's a more optimistic
Yep.
ending for the two of them.
Yep. I actually was expecting when they kiss at the end, and I was expecting that they kind of make love and that she transform and eat him.
Oh, you were
I
expecting
didn't
a
expect
twist
that kind
ending
of
like
ending.
that, huh?
Yep.
Kind of an Odd
But no.
Taxi ending. You remember at the very end of Odd Taxi when the
Yeah,
girl,
yeah, yep.
the
Yep,
idol,
yep,
gets
yep.
into the car
Yep,
with
yep, yep.
Odokawa? Like it's implying that he's about to die. Um,
Yep.
Something similar here.
Yep.
That would have been kind of disappointing for me, because I did like
Right.
Yuka and Toshihiko's relationship a lot. Like the
Yep.
how passionate they were at the start, and then their physical difficulties, like kind of spilling over into their more social and emotional interactions. The
Yep.
frustration that they had with one another, and then how
Yep.
they had to work together and cooperate in order to see each other's points of view. I think the two of them are pretty good characters, and they had a neat story together.
Yep. Oh, I agree. I agree with you on that. But one of the point of the story is the difference between uh, in races between the flesh eater and the human. So there always like the conflict between them, as we see in the first segment, like the
Right.
pre OP. So
Yep.
like there always like the ongoing conflict between them. So I that ending would still fit as well. But one point I want to address though, how you feel about Jin, like the inclusion of him at the end.
He was. I don't know. Like, was it necessary? for him to
Yeah,
appear in episode
yeah.
12 and
That's my
take up
point.
a lot. I mean, I was kind of grateful that he took up a lot of episode 12 because that means there was less of the final battle in that episode. Can you imagine if
Hmm.
the final conflict had been both episodes 12 and 13? I
That
would have
would
been
be really
like,
long.
yeah, I would have been like, "Oh my god, this is just too much." It was already long enough
Yep,
in the
yep.
just for the final episode. So the meeting with Jin, yeah, I
Mm.
mean, it doesn't go over very well. Um, because he's like an insane person who has to
Yep.
be calmed down by reading the story of Momotaro from like a children's picture book. Uh,
I actually find that interesting. The
how
way that
so?
like he loses his mind, and like he can just keep calm. Like that's the only thing that can keep him calm, by reading the book, the books,
Yeah,
the picture books.
he definitely went off the deep end as a
Yep.
result of the Kemonozume, I guess. Episode 4, the big flashback episode where we learn the history of all the
Mm-hmm,
Kafuken
mm-hmm.
members and the big three, Toshihiko's
Yep.
father, Jin, and Oba.
Oba. Oba. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
he did the Kemonozume on himself, and he went crazy. So I don't know
Yep.
what is the message here. Like, because obviously Toshihiko's the hero. He's one of the heroes of the story, and he doesn't um, do the Kemonozume. He doesn't take anyone else's arms to augment his own strength. Um, Oba does, and he is obviously the villain. Jin did, and he paid a huge price for it. So what are we supposed to
Mm-hmm.
take from that?
You don't let your desire uh, get the better of you. He want to be the
Yeah.
best. He want to combine uh, him and the flesh is iterate, which he like he loses his mind because of that. It like you said, it more about it on it also more about the sexual thing as well.
Yeah.
I found that like all the three old men are lust over Rika mother, whatever her name is. Um,
Um,
yes,
Harumi, I think.
Harumi. Yeah, yeah, that's right, Harumi. So yeah, I think like the sexual desire has something to do with with all this as well. It's like one of the main themes. I don't feel that the ending really satisfy that.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, we get a little bit away from all the sexual underpinnings of the series
Yep,
and of what the parallels between sexuality and the Shokujinki. And we move
yep, yep.
towards
That's right.
Oba just being completely crazy and wanting to destroy
Yep,
Tokyo. And like his rant when
yep.
he's on the gigantic ball that is like, going across
I don't even
Tokyo
care.
Bridge, whatever that bridge is. He's
Yep,
saying everyone die. Like all the greedy people, all the politicians, all of the warmongers, all of the peace lovers, just everyone die. Everyone.
yep,
Yeah, so his rage is just a product of his insanity, I guess. Um,
yep.
and like there's political and social commentary being made through his character, like the way that he markets this drug to a bunch of people and he tries to sell it to the military, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that he's so
Hmm.
crazy kind of renders a lot of that inert,
Yeah,
I feel.
right. And even like the fact that he crazy renders his son character as well, because the sons he always been my favorite of this show, but
Yeah.
he doesn't have like a much showdown, a spotlight. Like towards the end, he
Well, that's
kind
because he's
still.
conflicted. It's his father is the big bad.
Yep, yep. That's the only thing that we see from him. Like I want to see more of his characters. I want to see he stepping out of his supporting roles.
I'd take a spin-off
And
with him being like, because he's a private investigator. That's his role for most of the series.
Yep.
when we see him like the
Hmm.
first two times. So I would love a spinoff with like a giant private investigator who wears that like pimpin' white suit and
Yep.
like very delicately has to pick up a bunch of clues and stuff to inspect them, and I think that'd be a
Yeah,
great
that'd be
show.
nice. Yep, yep, that'd be nice.
Maybe when
I
Yuasa
would,
comes out of
I would want to
retirement,
show.
that's the series he'll make.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought it made sense. Bones' role in the final episode, I thought it made perfect sense
yep,
because he like it's his dad. He says to him, I don't like you when you're like this. Like think about
mhm,
how almost pitiful that sounds, how
yep,
childlike.
yep,
Um, I don't like you when you're like this.
yep.
You know, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to hurt
Want to
his
fight
dad,
against him?
but
Yep,
eventually,
yep.
like he gets the call from Yuka on his cell phone. He realizes what he has to do, and he picks up his dad's head and shot puts him into, back to
Yep.
the top of his tower. The whole fight, all the different phases of the fight were very strange. Like especially the, I mean, the strangest part was obviously Oba just being ahead and like the ball rolling down and stuff. But then he turns into like a weird bat with wings and flies up out of the Earth's atmosphere with Toshihiko hanging on for dear life. I was
He
like,
he can do
huh?
everything. He can do anything, you know.
Yeah, and Toshihiko
It's
can
like,
apparently live when he in space, and
oh
after
yeah, yeah,
falling
yeah,
back down
yeah.
to Earth, he can also survive that somehow. We don't exactly know how that happened, except that Yuka said
Uh,
like aerial position or
uh,
something weird.
yeah. I do think that you can save him then, you know, like by catch him when he fall,
I
as
know,
opposed
but
to the poor Oba
he should have burned up
when his head
upon.
just. Yep, yep.
He re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. He should have burned up and died and like disintegrated.
He should have died way before that, like you said.
Yeah, you're right. All these characters. I
Yeah,
mean,
it doesn't
he gets
matter.
like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Logic really does not matter in these last in this show in general. I don't think logic really matters. When you
Yep,
see
yep.
Toshihiko, the hero and the main character of this story, like wearing a diaper and
Oh yeah,
sitting around a table
you
eating like snacks and drinking beer with a monkey and a gigantic private investigator, uh, you know that you
you
can't predict
you
what's
can
about to
take it
happen,
seriously.
and it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, as a whole, I enjoy Kemonozume. I don't think that the ending really stick the landing. Because like what some of my favorite episode is towards the middle, the one like we said in our previous podcast, the one where the giant detective come and see them. I
Right.
think
That was
that
episode
was when
6.
the show when they let loose, it's really a spark the most.
I would say that even before that, like the early episodes, the lead up to it, I'd say the story was pretty gripping, and the
Yep.
presentation of it was off kilter enough that
Yep.
even though it was a story about like a clan of warriors and one of them betrays the others because he falls in love with a woman, et cetera, et cetera. It was a very fresh take on that idea. A lot of
Hmm.
interesting visual
Yep.
choices and learning about the history of the Kifukan in episode 4 kind of gave a lot, shown an entirely new perspective on what we had seen thus far. That was a pretty good development.
Yep.
So I would say the first like 2/3 of this show are like grade A stuff. It just
Hmm.
starts to go a little bit too nutso as it goes on.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my
And
read on it.
even like in the pre opening scenes of one of the two episodes where we see like one of the prime minister or president was gunned out by the soldiers.
Yeah, and he
I
was
think the
talking
team
about
is
like
just
what's that?
yeah, go on, yeah, yeah, I just say that the team is a bit different than others. that we see before. Because was he a monster?
Well, he was part of his head was like
Yeah,
metal, so
yeah. That's just weird.
he was a cyborg or something. And at the press conference, he was denying the fact that they were creating an army of super soldiers, and it really didn't have anything to
Right.
do
Oh,
with the Shokujinki, the flesh eaters.
yep, yep, yep.
Because he was talking about like we're not making robot weapons.
Mm,
Um, so I think there's a parallel between what Oba was trying to do by selling that drug to the military, and
yep.
this instance of the some the prime minister or the leader of the diet, whatever, in Japan being like, no, we're not gonna make super soldiers. I
Yep.
don't know. It was just very loosely connected to some of the other ideas that the show had. Uh,
Mm,
I just kind of treated all those cold opens as like curiosities. I wasn't trying to piece
mm,
them together into a
mm.
bigger story or anything. They
Yep.
were they were interesting. Just one more way that the
Yeah,
show is able
they.
to distinguish itself from pretty much every
That's
other
right.
anime that has ever been made.
Yep. They are still like part of my favorite like favorite parts of the show. All these like pre-op stuff.
Yeah,
They
kind of
just
gives it
add
its own
something more
signature.
to the teams. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How did you like it compared to like the rest of USR's canon?
Boy, that's that's tough. I would say that I like Kemonozume about as much as Kaiba. I think they are both
Right.
very strong for most of their run, and then
Yep.
at the end they kind of fumble the ball a little bit. So I put those two on a level together, and then
Right.
Tatami Galaxy above that, Ping Pong
Yep.
far
Mm.
above everything
Yep.
else. Ping Pong's one of my favorites by
Yep.
any
How about
director in any.
Ezuken?
Uh, a, Ugh. I mean, Eizouken is probably with Kemonozume and Kaiba. The fact that I just really didn't like its conclusion. Um,
Mm.
I don't think he's ever made a bad TV series except for Japan Sinks.
Even Japan Sing, I find a lot of interesting idea behind it.
Okay, well, you can like Japan Sinks, and I'll like Tamala 2010 Upon Cat in Space, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can just
All
be
right.
can have our own weird
All
preferences.
right. Yep. I would say like I still put Kaiba above Kemonozume. Kaiba is something for me that uh it's like it's a lane in a way. It's like one of these innovative show that I watched early on my anime career, and really
Yeah.
it's inspired me on like what animation can do. So yeah,
Mm.
Kaiba is way up there. I think with Tatami Galaxy and just people animation a bit below that. So Kemonozume like the second tier, which is not for you USR, which is not a really bad one at all.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense that this show turned out the way it did because it was on the heels of Mind Game, which was also very
Yep,
messy, frenetic,
trippy.
sexually driven, um,
Yep.
just very strange and experimental. So it
Mhm.
probably a lot of ideas that were cooking up in his brain and Mind Game he worked into this one,
Yep. Yep.
and it
I can see
makes
that.
it makes sense. You get to see him kind of mellow out a little bit as he goes. Uh, I
Mm.
still now I've seen everything that Yuasa has done from Mind Game forward. So from 2004 all the way up to 2021. But I still need to go back and watch some of his work on the like Chibi Maruko-chan films and Noiseman Sound Insect.
Mhm.
I haven't seen that.
Yep.
That was like a short
He
film that he
had
worked on.
right, right, right. Mm.
Gonna have to go back and check those out.
Yep.
And then Inuo,
Or
sometime later this year. We'll probably get it in 2022, but looking forward to that for sure.
yep.
His upcoming
Have
film.
you heard the story about like um one worker from like former animator from Science Saru just say that like she had been overworked by the studio. Have you
Yeah,
heard of
by
that
Science
story?
Saru. Yeah, yeah, I read about that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Oh,
I mean,
not
stuff
surprised either.
comes out like this every week, and
Yep.
I think obviously it's a problem with anime, with work culture in the anime industry, but I think it's a Japanese thing too.
Yep.
Like if you think about it, Japan got like they experienced the most widespread global humiliation in the history of planet Earth when they were nuked in World War II.
Yep.
And the way that they bounced back as a nation from that defeat and became a
Is
global
incredible.
superpower, yeah, it's
Yep.
unbelievable. So the like they still have not taken their foot off the gas pedal from 70 years ago or 75 years ago. That would be my
Yep.
hypothesis. Um,
Yep.
there's probably
Yeah.
still culturally a mindset that they just have to like never stop, and that's I think
Right.
what creates these issues in anime.
All right. This is no offensing at all, but I think it's just the cultural things. Where like I think the Asian culture is more hardworking than the Western, and to the point where they expected, like the boss, the COE, they expected you to work overtime, even like all nighter just to completing the thing. So that's become a norm,
Right.
and
Yeah,
it
I've read some stuff
obviously
about that.
isn't. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I've
it happened
done.
the same in China, Vietnam, and Korean. I say
Mm.
it.
Well, people always talk about the fact that those cultures are more, collectivist, whereas Western cultures are more individualistic. So if you're
Mm,
working as part of a team, as part of a group or a collective, there's pressure on you to, uh, contribute
perform.
as much as you can
Yep.
to the
Yep.
group,
Yep.
because otherwise you're not
Yep.
just failing yourself. You're failing your team, your company, your family, your country. Whatever the scale is that you're working at. There's
Mm,
greater risk of failure. I think if you don't give as much effort as you possibly can. And I think that
mm.
people in positions of power probably are happy to let that mindset, you know,
Yep.
continue
Yep.
unfettered.
Yep.
They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, I mean, you better work 12-hour days, 6 days a week.
Yep. Yep. Doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt them. Doesn't hurt
Yeah,
the
sure.
the CEO.
Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt the people who benefit from it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We'll
All
see.
right.
We'll see what
So
happens with anime.
yeah,
I
that's
don't.
right.
I don't know what the future is going to look like. I don't know if the current model is sustainable. If there's going to be a huge
Yeah, but
collapse before it gets better, or if there will be slow
or
reforms
maybe
over time.
yeah, or maybe there's just some like government regulation about that. We don't
I think
know.
that's the only way that things will get fixed without.
Improve.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's the only way things will improve without a huge collapse.
Yep. Yep.
Without like tons of studios just shutting down because uh,
Hmm.
they can't find people who are willing to work for no money, super high stress jobs.
Yep. Ah, jeez. All right. So this is one of those week where Mario's and Whooper's opinion are differ. Like we don't agree on the two films that we watch,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Yeah, I still can't believe
So
that you didn't like Tamala. That was so artsy.
yeah, I didn't like it at all.
That was the artsiest anime
uh,
that I've ever seen. Even more than like
the
Angel's Egg.
weirdest, the weirdest, right? Not the
Yeah.
asses.
Even less accessible than Angel's Egg. Like
Yep.
I
Yep.
thought for sure you'd be into it.
Uh, all right. So in 2 weeks, what we gonna do, Whooper? Is that like the mid-season things?
No, I think mid-season is going to be a month from now. So in 2 weeks, maybe a
Hmm.
taste testing episode along with the beginning of our new classic series. Might be an anime, might be a manga. We're going to have to figure that
All
out.
right. Yep. We will get you informed on that.
I mean, yeah, we're just gonna show up in
So
2 weeks and
yep,
do it. So, I mean, we don't have any. There's
yep,
nowhere you can follow us where you can stay informed. Although I did make a My Anime List page for our podcast, which has everything that we've like watched on it.
yep. Yeah, can you just link them to the uh to the postcard
To
here
that
as well?
page. Yeah, can do. Link will be
All
in the
right.
description. Sounding very official.
Yep. You can add us as a friends if you like. No big
Sure.
deal. All right. All right. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay, we'll see you then.